let's draw our nose. For this project, you'll need paper, pencil, eraser, and a blending tool. A tissue will work just fine. We don't need a full sheet of paper, just a half a sheet. So I'm going to take a full sheet of copy paper, 8.5 by 11, fold it in half, crease it, flip it inside out, refold it. I'm really getting that crease nice and sharp because I need to weaken that edge because I'm not going to use scissors. You can, but I'm going to just use my hand and pull and rip. I will move my fingers along the creased edge and kind of hold it still. I'm going to set the extra aside because I have to draw lips later. All right, it's not quite time to draw. We need to observe our nose first. You look at a mirror and I've got a photograph for us to do this together. First thing to notice is that we're symmetrical. I've actually drawn a line of symmetry down this. I've also noticed that the edges of my nose line up with the corners of my eyes. Basically, my nose is one eye wide. Now, I've also noticed there's some crisp, obvious lines in my nose. The first two I notice are around the outsides of my nostrils. They kind of look like parentheses. The other lines I notice are on the insides of my nostrils. Those kind of remind me of candy canes or upside down J's. There's also a little U under my nose and backwards parentheses at the corners of my eyes. Now, it's not as pronounced in this photograph, but if you look at your nose, it kind of appears that there's a ball of your nose, and those kind of are formed with smaller parentheses. The length of our nose isn't defined with a harsh line, but more of a small value change. I think we might be ready to start our drawing. All right, I have my piece of paper. I've turned it vertical because our nose will fit in best vertically. Remember that it's symmetrical, so the first thing I'm going to do is line up the edges of my paper and put a little crease, a couple of them in my paper. I don't want a solid fold, but I do want to know where the center is. I'm using a ruler to create the straight line down the center. It's a symmetry line. This way I keep one side equal to the other side. Draw it lightly. Mine is darker so that you can see it. All right, the next thing is to kind of figure out how wide is this nose going to be. And I've decided I want to use up most of my paper. I'm going to mark the left edge of the nostril, and now I need to make the left and the right side even. I'm grabbing an extra piece of paper. I'm going to mark on this paper how wide that nostril is, move it to the right so that the right side is the same width. Now, I need to figure out the height of my nostril. I know it's the curve like a parenthesis, but how tall is it? I will use my pencil to help keep the top of my nostrils on both sides even and the bottom even. So you'll notice I've laid my pencil down to kind of match up the height of those. I will keep correcting until I know that both sides look the same. I want my left side and right side to appear even. So I observed the left side and drew what I saw through my observation. Now on my right side, I need to make sure that my right side drawing matches my left side drawing. I'm no longer observing my nose, I'm observing what I recently drew. Now let's move to the bottom of the nose. It's like a little smile. And now I'm adding the line from my inner nostril. Here's what you're going to notice. Once you add this line, new negative space appears. So now I have to pay attention to the space that has occurred between the curve of my inner nostril and the curve of the outer nostril. Pay attention to that spacing. I want to reference that there's a tip of my nose, the ball of my nose that protrudes out. So I'm doing light lines, kind of similar to the parentheses. I'm going to come back and add a little bit more value to that later. I also want to go up and show that I have the top bridge of my nose up by my eyes. So I'm doing the backwards parentheses. All right, so I'm going to make sure that these are kind of the right shapes that I want. And now we're going to start playing with some value, right? The nose is really going to start to pop when I start adding value. Inside my nostrils is probably one of the darkest areas, but please, please, please don't make it too dark. I'm going to blend it. So get out a tissue. You're going to wrap it around your finger. And so you don't want to press hard, but you're going to blend this graphite. And it's going to kind of smear around on the paper and have darker areas and lighter areas. I also don't want really crisp lines, so I'll use the tissue to blend around the outsides of the nostrils And I'm adding a little bit more to those parentheses I did for the ball of my nose, and I'm going to blend those a little bit. This is going to take some trial and error. You're going to take your tissue and kind of blend and smear, and you're going to start to see a nose appear. All right, so a lot of times we've done our value with lines. For this, we're going to use mostly blending of graphite. So laying down light amounts on your paper and then coming back with your tissue and blending. You're going to really have to pay attention when you're looking at your nose. Where is it lighter? Where is it darker? I'm going to go up towards my eyes, right? The corners of my eyes. And I'm going to do a little bit of blending there. Again, I don't want harsh lines. I do want to show that there are shadows, right? Indents. Our nose is one area on our face that has parts that protrude out and parts that go in, right? So there's a big change in where light hits our nose and where light doesn't. So when you're observing, you need to pay attention to where the highlights are, where it's lighter, where less light is hitting it, so it's going to be darker. But we don't want people just totally staring at your nose. If you're going to put one in a portrait, you want everything to be kind of soft. So don't be afraid to use your eraser to lighten some things up. Add a little bit more graphite. Do a little bit more blending with your tissue. I gotta tell you, I smell success right around the corner for you. Enjoy.